If you're looking for me, you can find me. Pimpin' getting riches, grinding. And ain't no use in even trying me. 45 piece beside me. Now let the church say amen again. Church say amen again. Church say amen again. Purse first, ass last, get your bag and win.
What's up, people? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How's it going? It's your boy Emmanuel, E-Man, Coach E-Man. I want to welcome everybody to the first episode of the MooreLife Podcast. Everybody's been asking, what the podcast is. It's just a real life podcast where we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of life, the joys. We talk about business. We talk about life. We talk about politics, and we'll even talk about religion. But we're not a biblical podcast, but we are a podcast that isn't afraid to get biblical. I have a special guest with you guys today, and my cousin, Seneca O'Neil. I'm super excited about it. I'm going to turn it over to him, let him introduce himself, and then we're going to kick right in it.
Definitely, I appreciate that, man. Like you said, I'm Seneca O'Neil, born and raised in Northeast Ohio, live right now in Central Ohio. Corporate guy, went to school, married, 5 kids, got a few micro enterprises on the side, and we'll go from there, man. We'll get into these questions.
Already, man. Again, Seneca, man, thank you, man. I appreciate you for being here, being on my first episode, man. Me and Seneca go back. He's my big cousin. He's picked on me. He's probably the reason why I got some scars on my face, all those type of things. But first thing I want to kick into, man, I want Seneca, man, just to tell you about him. I know he just said, he's a little bit from Northeast Ohio, but I want to kind of dab more into that about, what being from Northeast Ohio looks like.
Got you. Well, I'm going to tell you my personal situation. Definitely grew up, I would say, definitely in poverty, right? Extreme poverty, no, like we ate, but still, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence going on, a lot of drug selling, a lot of, everything that goes on in quote unquote the hood. But really, having a mindset to want to get out of that is what drove me to where I am today. Didn't happen overnight, but definitely happened, throughout life. But, basically growing up, like most kids around drugs and things of that nature, by high school, started to make some bad decisions, had to kind of reevaluate the kids I was hanging out with, things of that nature. But, and I was probably one of the worst ones. So people had to evaluate hanging around me. But, at the same time, just understanding that, even though we was doing wrong, we understood like this is not where we really want to be. But, while you're immature, you're still making decisions and trying to get up out of that. But, it was a struggle. And of course, a lot of my friends didn't make it. A lot of my friends went to prison, went to jail, went to DH early. But by the grace of God, I started to make different decisions by the time I got a little bit older, and I was able to transition out of that lifestyle and move on to doing more productive things.
Right. So you kicked out something, man. You said mindset. That's going to go into one of the first topics, man, I want us to talk about, man. Let's talk about that mindset, man. As a teenager, growing up in poverty or somewhat poverty, growing up in the hood, growing up in a town where it seems like not many people make it out, right?
Right.
And unfortunately for me, I saw it twice. I saw it in Ashtabula, and then I saw it in Little Rock. You don't see many people make it out, but what you do see, you see that struggle. You see people trying to, live where they are, push through where they are, just trying to have a everyday life. So that mindset, man, let's talk about that, man. The mindset that, of course, where you are now, but even just the mindset, where you started at first.
Yeah, honestly, my mindset was always strong, right? So I always understood, even though I was in the situation, I never really accepted it. So even though we were poor and things of that nature, I never was cool with it. So, a lot of people end up getting cool with it because it becomes their everyday life. For me, I hated it. I hate not having what we needed. I hate having to borrow. I hate having to ask people for stuff. So for me, my mindset was always, when I can do better, I'm going to do better and keep pushing until I get where I want to get. So I started off cutting grass, cutting hair, then I got a job. And when I'm talking about these things, I was adding on. I wasn't just doing one thing at a time. I started to add on. So my mindset was, whatever I got to do, I need to do that and add on and keep pushing, right? But in my mind, first and foremost, I had to keep God first, right? So even though I might not have been the most perfect person, I still knew God. And so I knew that, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, who lives within
Most
me, right?
definitely, most definitely,
So
most definitely.
every time I would attack something, especially when it was positive and I knew nothing was wrong with doing that, right? I had an expectation to succeed, right? And so that was my mindset. And so throughout, my later teen years, that's what I was focused on, keeping my mind together and really trying to do some positive things. Now, a lot of times those things wouldn't work out, but at the same time, I never quit. So again, when we're talking mindset, you got to have determination. You got to know that even if no one else believes in you, you got to believe in you, and you got to push that until you get a result. And so, you don't fail until you quit. When you quit, then you can say, okay, I failed. But when you don't quit, you just keep going and going. It just hasn't cracked for you yet, or it just hasn't happened to the level you want it to yet.
Right,
But that's
right,
that's
right.
that's the mindset you got to have. So, I can say a lot of people can look back at me and say, man, Seneca used to do a little bit of everything, trying to throw some parties, trying to sell some drugs, trying to do some of this, some of that, but I had the mindset of I'm going to try everything I need to try to come up and change my situation until I figure it out. Right. And so
Right.
that's what happened.
So you said something, man. I remember, man, when you was living with your moms and all that, you said about the throwing parties, man. I remember you had your little DJ booth in there,
Right.
thought you, yeah, I remember all that, had your little headset, the DJ, man,
Right.
but I saw it, you know what I'm saying? So that's what's so good about me is I saw that, I may not have been in every part of the grind,
Yeah.
but growing
Yeah.
up, I was able to see that when you were hanging with some of our cousins or when you were hanging with, some of your friends that I knew as well. Like I saw that. I
Yeah.
remember you probably don't even remember this, man. Sitting at the house, you was the first person that ever let me hear Master P Bout About It. It was you and somebody in the room and y'all was playing Bout About It. And I was like,
I
oh
don't even
snap.
remember that.
And that introduced me to Master P, man. Shout out to my homeboy Chris Montgomery. He introduced me to TRU, man. True to the
Okay.
Game. That was my first album that I ever talked my mom into buying for me. I was in the 4th grade, man.
Right.
And because you and Chris, man, that's crazy. But you also said something, man, about failing, right? When I was talking to the youth, when I used to work for the workforce, and when I was working at this company called Life Skills, I would always talk to the youth about, what failing is, right? And how that looks. And I tell them it's okay, man, if you fail. It's okay if you mess up and you make a mistake. It's the getting back up and learning from it, right? Like, okay, I messed up, but what am I gonna go forward to do? What am I gonna do now? Instead of just sitting in, and a
Right.
guy painted a picture for me one day, man, and he said, man, failing is fine. It's when you become a failure. He said, man, and this is what being a failure looks like. He said, how when the sun comes up in the morning and you're laying in the bed and you got your blinds open in the sun, that red sunshine is hitting on you, for some of us, we're going to get up, we're going to stretch, we about to get our day started. But to others, they're going to get up, they're going to close the blinds, they're going to slide the curtains in, and they're going to lay back down and cover themselves up, because they don't want to deal with that day, or they don't want to deal with whatever situations or problems they may have. That's what it looks like, going into that failure situation. Granted, it may be hard for you right now. You might have more zeros in your account than the numbers on your bills, right? But you're getting up, you're going forward, you're either grinding, trying to get a job, you're grinding, trying to pay these bills, you're doing something, maybe trying to educate yourself, finish high school, finish college, you're trying to educate yourself, man. And a lot of people can take that, I don't want to say take it for granted, man, but a lot of people, will look at that and they feel like, man, well, I made a mistake. I'm a failure. Nah, dog, you made a mistake, man. That's life. Life is going to give you ups, downs, good, bad. You're going to make mistakes in life. You're going to make some bad choices in life. That's all on the path of creating who you are. Now, this goes into, I know you said you don't believe in God, man. Let's talk about that. We want to hear more Black men, talk about, their faith, whatever, your faith is. Me, myself, I'm a God believer, but maybe to some listeners out there, they may be a Muslim, they may believe in the Prophet Muhammad, they may be whatever, we got Hebrew Israelites out here, everybody, but my thing is, man, believe in something, man, and let that help mold you to becoming a better person. But with you, man, let's talk about, your faith system, how you were able to grow that and your faith in relationship with God.
Yeah, honestly, man, I grew up in church, right? So my father was a pastor, even though he wasn't, in my life as a kid. He became a pastor later on, when I became a young adult. And then my grandfather was a pastor, but he was, always in my
Yes, he
life, right? I
was.
went I
Yes, he
went to his
was.
church growing up, right?
Yes.
So, but really, being an individual, I did not embrace God myself personally
Yeah.
until I was probably about, 19, 20, right? So when I was in the streets, kind of realizing and figuring out like, man, I do need God on my side. So it was a little bit of touch and go, right? Knowing I needed God, but still wanting to be in the streets, and knowing I needed to do better, but still being in the streets. So until I was about 25, I didn't really make a decision. And then,
Right.
once I made that decision when I was like 25, what I would do is just basically do my best to put my best foot forward. And even though I failed a lot, right, I never
Yeah.
quit, right? So, no one's perfect. And when you're changing lifestyles like that, it's not just going to happen overnight, right? It's going to take a lot of, thinking and mindset changes, because you got to understand, even though you just want to do better, you got to tell yourself, and really understand why you want to do better and understand the whys
Right. Right.
behind
Right.
everything. And so with that, making those transitions as we started to have kids and I got married and things of that nature, you really start to see the fruits of living that lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, what it gives you is peace and an expectation for success, right? So anything I do, anything I touch, I expect success, because I'm not doing anything to hurt nobody. I'm not doing
Right.
anything to take advantage of someone. I'm not doing anything to be against God. Everything I'm doing for either my family, or to help someone else, or to praise God's name, right? And sometimes I'm doing that all at once,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's when, you really can go out here and have an expectation. So that's what I would say, people really need to kind of embrace and think about when they encourage that relationship with God and decide to change their life and what they're doing. All things are going to work together for good for them, because they love Christ, right?
Right. 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 I like that, man. I like that, man. And like you said, man, you said when you were a teenager, you weren't there, which a lot of us aren't, man. When we were kids, number one, being raised in the church, we had a praying grandmother, we had praying aunts, we had some praying uncles,
Right.
we had some praying mothers, man, so that is the realm we, growing up, you're always around, man. And at times, unfortunately, you get to the point where, man, I'm tired of going to church. Like the little
Right.
boy in that viral video, man, he got up and said, I'm tired of this church,
Right. Right.
and it's not nothing against the church, or nothing against the people. It's just, as a kid, as much as we went, you see it's you're going all the time, revivals,
Right.
conferences,
Right.
Bible study, choir rehearsal, Sunday school,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
church itself. Then you
Yeah.
might have to go visit another church after that, yeah, as a kid, just like, man, God, I just want to be a kid. Like, I
Right.
just want to live, and then we're growing into that mindset of really trying to figure out, number one, just honestly who God is, man. A
Mhm.
lot of us were taught a tradition with God,
Right.
we weren't taught a relationship with God. We were told to pray, but not how to pray, right? We
Right.
were told that we should go to church, but not why we should really go to church, right? We were told, well, to believe in God and believe in Jesus, but we never were told why. Of course, they told us John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that's whosoever believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life.
Right.
But that was something to us we had to memorize, just cause we didn't
Yeah.
understand the magnitude of that.
Right.
And as African American men, young men, dealing with the everyday struggles of the world, number one, because again, Northeast Ohio, Ashtabula, that's a racist town, unfortunately. And a lot of people don't know that. If they hear Ohio, some people don't think Ohio is racist until, maybe they start looking at the politics and things like that. But that's a racist town. And for me, I come from a racist town, then I moved to the South, Arkansas, and had to deal with racism here, and as an African American man, as an African American young boy, you have to start building those foundations, of what that's going to look like, of who you are. And you're battling things on this side, you're battling things on that side, and then you're being told about church and all this, and you're trying to really believe and find these things, you might go astray. You know, you might be infatuated with what you see in the streets. You might be infatuated with the music you hear, the TVs you see. I mean, the shows that you see, man. And that's a part of it, man. But you know, with that, you know, we encourage our young men and women to find themselves, man. And it's a process, you know, when it comes to finding ourselves, but it's a process, man. Finding who we are, growing into who we are. You know, I'm 37 years old, man. I finally know who I am at 14, 15. I couldn't tell you who I was. You know, I couldn't tell you what I wanted in life. I couldn't tell you what life would be like for me at 25. I couldn't see it, you know. But we build those foundations, man, you know, and we start there. And so, man, let's go into, you know, business, man, like what you do, number one, as an African-American male in your sector, man. How does that look? You know, what do you do? But then how does that look for you as an African-American male?
So I'm currently a senior financial analyst. And so basically what that looks like is I'm the only one. Right.
Okay.
So to be totally honest, you know, you're not going to find too many of us in that corporate world. And when you do, a lot of us get frustrated and end up quitting or moving or finding something else. So it's kind of different when you think about finance and you think about African-American males. There's just not a lot that end up making it long term that I've seen. Right. My personal experience. But again, for me, you know, I just made a decision that, you know, I'm not going to allow other people or other things to determine my future. You know what I mean? So when it comes to me, if I come up against a situation, first thing I'm going to do is pray about it and seek direction from God. And before I make a move or decide to leave or this or that or the other, you know, I'm going to really think about it and see, you know, does this benefit me or not? So that's how I kind of deal with those situations as far as being Black and being in corporate America. And then outside of that, with the businesses that we have and businesses that we run, you know, I take it how it comes, but at the end of the day, being the owner allows you to decide who you're going to work with, where you're going to spend your money, who you're going to partner up with. So that's a big thing that helps you be more selective and helps you get around things, because at the end of the day, I'm spending money. If I don't like, you know, the service level, or I don't like what's going on, or I don't like the attitude, I can walk away. I don't even have to say anything and just keep my money and find another supplier or find another partner.
Right. So, man, with that, man, I like that, man. You know, you talked about your business, and I know you have your own clothing line and things like that, man. With your sons, which is called Blended, right?
Yep, Blended.
Yes,
Blended
man.
apparel.
So with that, man, you know, what was I guess, you know, your motivation for starting that apparel?
Honestly, Blended was something that came about because I used to work with Victoria's Secret, and just working with them and learning how sourcing works and learning how logistics works. I understood, like, hey, essentially everything everybody's wearing is coming from the same place. It's just getting branded differently, right? So it's essentially blanks, and then they add things to it to make it a specific brand. So I wanted my kids to understand that, hey, when you're paying, you know, $50 for this T-shirt, it's the same T-shirt that really only costs $3, right? But it's being branded, and they're adding this to it to get it to this end product. So I wanted to take them through that. So we decided to come up with a brand ourselves and have the kids run it. And so each of my kids, as they're progressing in life and getting into that teenage stage, they've basically ran the business and helped create designs, help sell T-shirts, help monitor the Instagram, things like that, right? And it's been good for them to learn a little bit about business while they're in school. You know what I mean? Because I want them to understand down the line, you always need to have something on the side, right? Always a little side hustle. Yeah.
So where can everybody find that at, man?
Man, you can
where
find
can
that
anybody, if anybody listening, where can they find it?
Yeah, that's on Instagram, man, at Blended Supply on Instagram. Yep.
Okay.
And
at Blended Supply. Are you working on the website or anything like that?
You know what? We are not right now, just because with all the other businesses and things that we got going on, we need to keep that one manageable, right? So that's why we really only drop new product every quarter, and then we sell what we have inventory wise. We sell what we have, and then we prepare for the next drop. So you know, if it gets sold out, you just gotta wait for the next drop, be first in line.
Understandable. I get it, man. So I know you said earlier, man, about growing up in a single, you're a single parent. household, man. With that, man, I want to know, man, what was the influence that your mom had on you, growing up and helping you to become who you are, the man that you are?
Right. Well, I would say, she played a big part by, keeping some things out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say she taught me how to be a man. I can't say that at all, but I can
Right,
say,
right, right,
just having a household that didn't have drugs in it, or a household that, you know, even if we didn't have what we wanted to eat, we still have food, right?
yeah,
Not having people running in and out the house all hours of the night, right? Being able to go to sleep on time, being able to get up on time. Maybe not having the clothes I wanted, but having clothes, right? Having new
right,
shoes.
right, right,
So having that, basic, stable environment allows you to be productive in school, allows you
mm-hmm.
to see the difference between your parents and your friends' parents when they got, they selling dope out the house and they can't even sleep and go to school properly,
Right,
right? Versus you can do the basics and get that stuff done, right? So that stuff matters a lot, right? Because in those years, a lot of kids get destroyed just by being, in the wrong environment. So, her keeping that stable environment, excuse me, keeping us going to church every Sunday, right? Even though we didn't want to always go,
right,
you
right,
know,
right,
kept us busy, kept us safe in order for me to get to the point where I could start using my own mind, right? And
right.
learning how to be a man and learning what I needed to do and things of that nature. So yeah, that's the part she played, definitely.
Okay, I like that, man. And like I said, I was somewhat a witness to it, man. That's why, I just wanted to speak on it, man. But you did say something like she couldn't help raise you to be a man, right? But for you, I know that you had other people in your life as well,
Right.
man. So let's talk about those, the men, that you were able to see in your life that maybe could help, that you could pull from. Okay, well, I'm not gonna do this, but I might take that out of him,
Right,
those
right.
type of things. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, man, I gotta say, I had uncles, right? So I definitely had men around all the time. So I had various uncles that I could, get with and get information from and things of that nature. And even though at that time in my life, some of my uncles were still in the street, it was
Yeah.
still various aspects of them that I could take from them and still understand what I needed to do as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had other uncles on the other side of my family that I could tap in with, right, and get good information from, get some guidance. But then I also had my coaches. So I had Hurdy Christian, Coach Walt Miller, Coach Jim Hood, Coach Andy Isco. So all these different coaches at different stages in my life, and I'm leaving some out.
Yeah.
Um, but still they were always there for me during those
Right,
different
right,
stages,
right,
right? So there
right.
was always something during the various sports seasons. And even a lot of those coaches used to bring me to practice, right? Because my mom didn't have a car operating all the time. Sometimes I would be walking. They'd pick me up, take me to practice, get me home safe, things of that nature. So all of that mattered, throughout that process. Definitely.
Right. So I want to touch on something, man, and if it's too emotional, man, let me know. We can bypass it, right? But I know recently your older brother Zach passed away, but I want to talk about who he was to you, in your life, growing up. Like I said, I got to see Zach until Zach ended up moving to California, but
Right.
just who he was to you, in your life growing up, and that big brother that you may have needed or may not.
Right, right. Well, definitely, I'll say, he was definitely a big part of my life later on. As a
Yeah.
kid, he was 12 years older than me, so
Okay.
I didn't see him a lot. So like, he was in college, then he came home for like a year or two, then he was moved to California and stayed in
Right.
California. But as I became a teenager, he sent me to California, brought me out there. One of the summers, I stayed a whole summer out there, got to tap in with them, and we would always talk on the phone, so we had a good relationship. But
Yeah.
that one summer staying out there with them really was a life changing for me, as far as
Okay.
motivating me, getting me to see some different things, being from a small town in
Right. Right. Right.
Ashtabula, Northeast Ohio, never really going nowhere. And then after that, as an adult, I would visit every couple of years, and we just continued to build a great relationship. And he took interest in my son with basketball because my brother was a good basketball player, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the
Um,
stories.
Yeah, man. So, he just really, always poured into my son, poured into Caleb, even poured into me as a father, as far as giving me feedback, how to deal with these different coaching situations and different basketball situations. But at the end of the day, we just had a very good relationship the last, I would say, like 10 years,
Okay.
just stayed really close and talking all the time. And, for me, he was definitely big brother, somebody I needed, someone I would call and vent to, someone I would call and let know what was going on and things of that
Right,
nature.
right.
And definitely going to miss him. But you know what? Uh, I know where he's at. He was saved before he left here, so I'm very comfortable with that. And rather have him with God than down here in pain. You know what I mean?
Right, 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 right. I get it. I get it, man. Like I say, man, I appreciate that. And I'm glad, like I say, that relationship was there with you, man, having that big brother, because for me, I didn't really grow up with a big brother. My dad has 5 kids, I'm the baby out of the whole five.
Right.
I saw my brothers when we lived in Ohio, but then when we moved, I didn't see my brothers, until the summertime, man. And at one point, we bonded, where people couldn't tell that we didn't grow up in the same household, of course,
Right.
but some things change, man. Time changes now, Um, I don't talk to two of my siblings like that right now, man, because things change, man. But I will tell everybody listening, man, family is everything, man. And believe in yourself, believe in your family, love your family, man. Like I love my siblings, man, but it's just the dealing with them. I can't do that right now, man. Just for a lot of reasons. Some I could probably one day, see myself
Yeah.
getting over, but me being stubborn right now, it's just like, why me? But again, like my father would say, I'm his Joseph, right? He would say that I'm the one that's gonna save his family, but me, I'm the baby. Why should the baby have this burden on him? I should be able to call my siblings and get advice from them and help them with things, but it's not that. I have the pressure on me, just like a few other things, my father
Hmm.
has put pressure on me about. But that's neither here nor there, man. That's probably another conversation we'll talk about
Okay.
on another
Okay.
podcast, man. But I tell people out there, man, FOE, man, family over everybody, man. Family is everything, man. Life is getting short, man. And if you can fix it, fix it. If you can't, love them from afar,
Right.
and that's that. But I want to go into talking about mental health with the black man, because like us, I'm an 80s baby. I think you might have been born 70 something. I don't know.
79.
See, look, 79.
Hmm.
With growing up, how we did, man, we're our mindset is a little different, and what I see now, as far as mental health, in African American men, of course, we need it, but you see more young men now being open with their emotional side, right? Being able to express those emotions and things like that. Whereas with us, we were raised hard. You fall down, man, get up. You's a boy. You start crying, wipe them tears. You can't cry. You a boy. And that leads some of us to being able to show more anger and aggression than saying you hurt me or I'm sorry and things like that, man. And this was a subject that another person asked me about. What does it look like, being whole as a black man? And somebody said, well, that's a loaded question, but to you,
Hmm.
what does it look like, man, as a black man being whole, and yeah, then I'll get into the mental health. But what does it look like being whole as a black man?
For me, I think it's something you have to work towards, right? I've never seen one that's whole, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
would I would say, you first got to deal with trauma from childhood, right? Whatever level of trauma you got to deal with that, and definitely as an adult, seek somebody you can talk with about that and get that over with. You know what I mean? Then you got to deal with, um, you know, being a black man in society and how you might be perceived or how you might be perceived when it comes to employment or how you might be perceived in various aspects of business, right? Dealing with that and figuring out how you as an individual are going to conquer that and deal with that, right? Because it's something you got to
Right,
deal with,
right.
but you still got to be productive out here. You still got to get things done, but that's something you're definitely going to have to deal with. And even if you don't deal with it now, you're going to have to deal with it at some point, right? It's just one of those things that goes with being a man of color in this country. And then I would say another thing to deal with is your relationship with God. You know, if you want to be whole, again, you got to start with that trauma. You got to start with your skin color, dealing with that, and how you're going to deal with it when someone does let you know they don't like you because of that. You know,
Right.
how you're going to get past that. And then you got to have that relationship with God, because that, and when I say then, I'm not putting these in the right number. God comes first, of course.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
you know, you got to have that relationship with God to be the basis for knowing that you're going to get by these things and get past these things, or knowing that, you know, you have the faith to get you through all the things that you need to get past in this life, because it's going to be a constant, you know, chain of actions, chain of events, things that are going on, and things that you need to properly respond to. Because if you respond the wrong way, what's going to happen? You're going to be
Right.
locked up. You're going to be
Right.
in
Right.
trouble,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if you want to get to being whole, you got to be honest about these things. You got to be honest about the past things that bother you, and you got to work on getting past them. And that's going to get you towards being whole. And of
Right.
course, you know, and if you find someone that calls themselves whole, then they obviously have conquered, you know, dealing with those three big things. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, that's my perspective on that.
And don't forget, man, we have to go see counselors, man. I know me myself, honestly, therapists, you know, it's
Mhm.
hard, you know, to be able to go talk to somebody and pour your life out, you know, right? But if you want to get a sigh of, I guess, that woo sigh, that fresh breath, man, you have to go talk to somebody, man. You have to go sit on that couch. You have to go, you know, be able to vent to. And somebody was asking me, you know, and I was seeing some posts, you know, about who do men vent to, man? Because some of us, we don't feel like we have anybody we can talk to about our feelings, about our emotions, about some of our past trauma, you know, about, you know, certain things we went to, you know, and we
Right,
hold it in. And
right,
then when it does come out, you know, it's like a volcano eruption, you know, it's like a raft. And the person that may get it may not even the person that even
right.
it's
Deserve it.
intentional for,
Yeah,
deserve it. They don't deserve it, you know. Even with that, man, see a counselors. We have to encourage, you know, African American young men and
right,
even African American women, or just, you know, people. Period. Number one, but you know, us, our culture, our people, to go see a counselor, man, because we deal with PTSD, man. As I was telling somebody, man, like Black people literally deal with PTSD, man. Growing up in the neighborhood, man, and you're seeing people sell dope. You're seeing people in gangs and they're fighting and beating up people. They're robbing. They're shooting. You're
right,
hearing gunshots
right,
when you sleep and things like that. That's all trauma, you know, on
right,
top of maybe
right,
getting picked on, you know, maybe getting mistreated in your home, you know, maybe not having the nice clothes and having to wear hand-me-downs and, you know, all of that. That's trauma that will work on your mind frame and will have you mad at the world, man, or
right,
have you, you know, holding things in, you know, especially with us men, you know, we can tell a person that we've been hurt or they hurt us, but then they don't receive it the same way and they don't accept it, then what do? We go back to our guarded position, right?
right,
And I know for me, that's me. That's what I do, you know, right here. I'd rather be in pain by myself, you know, than let anybody know I'm anything about what's going on, you know. But again, that goes, you know, to how I was raised and what I've experienced in my life, you know, like, you know,
right,
I was telling folks now, I went to prison when I was 16.
right,
I got out when I was 20, you know, so those years in prison, you know, did something to me mentally, of course, you know, but it made me enjoy life. Number one,
right,
it made
right,
me appreciate life, but it did something to me because then I didn't have nobody. All I
right,
had was God, you know, and myself. You know, I had my family, they visited, they sent letters, but you know, it was me in there, you know, and I don't talk about things, you know, because of that, because, you know, I've had to always be guarded. Then I was raised tough, you know, unfortunately, you
right,
know, I wasn't the kid that always heard I'm proud of you or I love you from my parents. And nothing against my parents, you know, I love them, but they did the best they could. You know, my father, he did the best he could with raising
right,
us. And
right,
like I said, I've heard stories of my grandfather and how hard he was and the things that he did. And his children were the spoils of that, you know. And so they did the best they could with being parents, but I had to see that as an adult. As a
Right.
kid, I didn't see that. I didn't like my daddy. I love him, but I didn't like my daddy,
Right. Right.
for many reasons, man. But I love my father, the man he has become, the things he's done. But me being raised the way I was raised has made me where, I'm guarded, and I don't trust people with my emotions, because
Right.
when I have, they've thrown it back on us, man. And then you're like, well, what the hell I'm telling you this for if you just gonna throw
Right.
it back in my
My
face?
face. Right.
Or what the hell I'm telling you this for if you're not gonna, really listen and hear me and understand me, right?
Right.
And so, I encourage, everybody, man. I don't have a counselor. One day I'm gonna get there,
Right. Right.
to go to therapy, to talk it out, man, because we truly deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, bro. Syndrome, literally, bro. Like, growing up in a Black household is trauma.
Right.
Unfortunately, man, it's trauma.
Yeah.
Not seeing your parents, like, just say your mom ain't Pegaloo, and she working all day, every day. You don't see mom late at night. She cook, clean, go to bed, back up, gone again. That's still a part of trauma.
Right. Right.
And we've dealt with that, man. But I know our time is getting short.
Yeah, man.
And man, like I say, man, I appreciate you for being on, but I want to talk about influence real quick again, man. Because I asked you, about your influence, but who is your influence now as the 40-year-old man that you are now? What is your influence now, and who is your influence?
I would say, now I'm literally really only influenced by a couple pastors that I look at from YouTube, right? A couple business guys I also look at from YouTube, right? I can't say I'm really influenced by anybody in my circle, because I've had to limit my circle, right? Because I've realized the people you have around you and the people you spend most time with, you know um, peer level, right? That's who you're gonna end up being like. You know what I mean? So me understanding that and understanding that I'm still trying to build myself, I had to kind of separate myself. And so I do that every couple of years. Every couple of years, I look around, see who I'm dealing with, who I'm talking to. And if it doesn't really make sense, I kind of separate myself, because I understand me, I want to do great things, and I'm not just about talking about it. I'm
It's
about
not
putting
a
action behind it.
right, and it's not a I'm better than you thing,
No, not
nothing
at
like
all.
that. It's just, I'm trying to grow here, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
nothing against where you are. Like, I can
Right,
still see you here and there. I can still hang with you, but it's not a all the time thing. Like, I'm
exactly,
trying to grow to,
exactly.
my next level. And I hate to say the level things, because, people always feel like I'm here, you're there.
Yeah,
But when it comes to growth, we're gonna grow, in different
right,
spectrums. I'll say that.
right.
But it
Yeah.
still doesn't make me better than you.
No,
I'm just
no,
working on me and trying to complete who I am and add on to
exactly.
who I am.
Exactly. And for me, it's been a process of figuring out how to do that without offending people, how to do that.
Right.
Because it's never anything like I'm better than, no, it's more about, hey, this is what I want from me, this is what I want from me and my family, this is what we're working on. And here we are, you know what I mean? And so
Right.
yeah, so really right now it's literally, no real influences outside of just some key people that I look at from YouTube and say, hey, I like what he's saying. I like what he's saying, or business wise, hey, I like what he got going on. I like what he got going on. And just
Right.
taking that and applying it to my life, trying to get to my next level, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. No, and I get it, man. I get it. And I always believe in, having people in your circle that's, doing something with themselves.
Yeah.
I have some friends that ain't doing nothing that, I hang with here and there, but you want to be around people that's, doing something with themselves, man, trying to stay motivated, because let's say if you
Right.
get demotivated, who's going to be able to push you? You don't want to
Exactly.
always be that person that's pushing everybody, and then you don't
Right.
have nobody to push you. You guys want to be able to push each other and have each other back. When I'm down, he got my back. When he's down, I got his back,
Right.
and it's not a financial thing. It's more of a mental thing, what I'm saying? Emotional thing where, I'm here for you, bro. I got you, whatever, man. But I know we're about to end up ending this call, man, but I want to tell you, Seneca, man, I appreciate you, man, for being on my call. On this podcast, man, MooreLife Podcast. I thank you, man. I want to, before we go, man, give some words to the people, man, and then we'll end this out.
Yeah, man. Hey, tell everybody keep God first. You know what I'm saying? Work hard. Don't give up on yourself. Believe in yourself, and just be determined. Be determined.